Here we are again, folks. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. Listen, I'm a man of a very modest education as far as secular goes in the world. Biblically, God has blessed me. How? I have learned how to read. I got saved in 1972, and I had to start learning how to read. So I got the Bible on tape, and I put it in my ears on a set of headphones, and I took an old family Bible like one of these right here, and one of those right there, by the way, is one that I went through, and I started marking with colored pens. I use these right here, colored pens like this. I carry them. Everybody says, "You got enough pens, Brother Peter?" I carry them in my pocket. I'll have different colors. I'll read one excerpt and I'll mark it with a yellow. I'll read another one, mark it with a purple, and then mark one with a red and green or whatever, or blue. And they said, "Well, why do you do that?" Well, I like to mark different things with different ones. I know I read them in a little different light. And as I read them again, I look at them in that light. The question I would have today to you, if you have punched on to PH Tidbits through prayer, I ask the Lord that each one of these that I do be for a certain person. These aren't for everybody. This particular setting today may not be for everybody. It's going to be for the learner, the person who wants to learn and wants to grow and wants to adhere. I'm not a rich man. I'm a working man. I'm 73 years old. I will be leaving for work tomorrow morning at 5:20. I'll be leaving for work, and I'll be home late. And what I did today is I worked today, an 8-hour day. I came home. I took a 2-hour nap. I got up. I worked 2 more hours, loading my truck, getting ready for tomorrow's work. Then I came up here and I've studied 2 hours, maybe 3, and now I'm ready to do an excerpt. And you can't be lazy. If you're going to follow God, you can't be lazy. You've got to be on the ball. Now there's a television in my living room downstairs. I went down and got a drink, and when I did, Jeopardy was on. I like Jeopardy. I sat down and I watched Jeopardy for a half hour. I took a half hour of my time. I asked the Lord, I said, I feel guilty about this, but I would have felt more guilty had I watched the next program that came on, America's Got Talent came on. And if I'm not careful, being human and being a weakling, if I start watching that, I'll sit down and watch that for an hour. I wouldn't be sitting here right now had I watched that. So therefore, it would not have been God's will for me to have sit down and watch that. I got this is an old book, and I don't know how I could turn it to where you could read it upside down, right side up, or how. But anyway, this guy's name is Josh McDowell, A Ready Defense. My question to you, if you are saved, if you do belong to God through Jesus Christ, His Son, and you have said, "Forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul," you have put yourself on the road to heaven. You are positionally already there. But now while you're on this earth, you are left here to be an example and an ensample. An ensample is what you do. An example is what you are. An ensample is what you are, An example is how you live and what you do. And so Josh McDowell here in his Ready Defense. Let me read a few of the beginnings here. You say, "Brother Peter, I have a Bible. I studied the Bible. I don't need Josh McDowell or any other books." Well, I used to think that way until God showed me that there are people in this world that know a heap more than I know, and they have put together some very good working plans. Now, Josh McDowell is going to go back to the King James Version Bible, and he's going to go back to scriptures on everything that he says. But he has put together some beautiful things. And this is the Bible relevant today? That's the first question he asked. is the Bible relevant today? Well, this book was written in 1977. It was written the first time in 1959. And I love this man in 1959. I love his work. And his work is good. And so, is the Bible relevant today? Does the Bible give evidence of being from God? The Bible is God's book. Yes, it is. How do you know that, Brother Pete? I've studied it. God has given me the witness that it is. And I have studied the Bible itself through from cover to cover a couple times. And that doesn't make me very knowledgeable. If you want to know the truth, you can study the Bible 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life, and you can have some knowledge of the Bible, but you will never know the whole Bible, no matter how much you study it. Every now and then I'll be talking to somebody about I'm in a seminary called Titus Baptist Seminary in LaGrange, Georgia, and in Titus I'm learning how to put things in a row. I'm learning some things about even though I've studied the Bible, I'm learning how the uniqueness of the Bible. I'm learning something about the uniqueness of the Bible. And what to expect when I'm studying the Bible. I expect a blessing. I expect a blessing. Surprise. I expect to be surprised. I was reading a little thing in Chuck Swindoll's book a few minutes ago, or a little while ago, about how curious man is. He wants to discover the depths. He wants to go to the deepest part of the ocean. He wants to go to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. He wants to go to the deepest place he can go. Oil men want to drill the deepest place they can find oil. But we are a curious group of people. I want to go to the depths of the Bible. How do you do that, Brother Peter? Well, you don't just get in the Bible. You take good books like Chuck McDowell's book here. And the bibliological charts he has in here. Bibliological. That's a word about the Bible. To study things about the Bible. And the reliability of the Bible is found in the bibliographical texts. You say, well, you're a mighty uneducated person to be using those such big words. And those, I've had to learn those because I want to get into the prophecy and the history and the surveys and the conclusions and the beginnings and the things about the Jewish people, the Israelites people, from Abraham when he was Abram, from Sarai when she became Sarah. And I want to follow through, and Jacob and Joseph and Jude and all of the people in the Bible. I want to follow through. And I want to know something about them. Can you believe in the miracles? Do you believe the miracles were all true? Because they were. But you must, if you want to look and see them, you must know where they are. Find them. Find about these. Are there any contradictions in the Bible? A lot of people say, well, the Bible, I had a man tell me not long ago. He said, well, you know something why I don't believe the Bible? And I said, why is that, sir? He said the four, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John couldn't agree with each other. They told their stories in different ways. Well, yes, they did. One was standing a mile and a half down the beach that way. The other one was standing a mile and a half up the beach that way. And the other two were in different locations. One was on the boat. And every one of them saw the same story, but they saw it in a different manner. They all wrote the same thing. They just wrote it in a different manner. And so that's the way it is. And we must look at different things and find out different things. So anyway, here's Josh McDowell's book. It's a good book. I like that book. And I've been in it, and I've studied it. Here's a Sunday school manual that I used right here by Thomas S. Renner. He's a Sunday school man, does Sunday school work. And I'm a firm believer that if you're not in Sunday school, you're probably not real interested in what the church is doing. If you can't get up and go to Sunday school, there's something wrong with your salvation, maybe. I mean, you say you're saved? Golly. Oh, some things are just organizing classes for maximum, that they might be organized and engineered to bring people in. The target purpose of Sunday school is to grow. Growth. We must grow. If you're going to grow, you must study. You must learn some things. This is one of my favorite men, Chuck Swindoll. Charles Swindoll. Perfect Trust. Little bitty book. Slap full of insight. Trust God for the impossible. Wow. This man has proved himself. He is a modern day man who has proved himself. We read the Old Testament prophets. We read the New Testament guys, the disciples that walked with Jesus. Here's a man right here we have in our midst who was the head of the theological place in Dallas, Texas, or somewhere in Texas, and he is perhaps one of the most experienced Christian human beings that ever walked on this earth. I love reading his work. I love knowing he is going and he has been same place I've been in some things, and even though I'm on a total different scale than him, I'm a human being, and we go through the same things, even in a small form as others do in a big form. But having God on the scene is the thing. Here's another one. Intimacy with the Almighty, with God, by Charles Swindoll. You need to find these books. They're not hard to find. You can find them actually in the Kroger's store. They have a rack of Christian books. And if you hear this one, you can ask them, or you can look it up online, or you can go ask your bookstore to find it for you. I love the fact that one of his writings in the very front, I read it. And I've read it, and I've read it, allowing me more opportunities to think and to record my thoughts. I've loved the change. Here's a man that was so busy through his life. What he wanted to do, he could not do. He couldn't take time to sit down and pen. I write all the time. I take time. I'm a busy man. I'm a working man too. I'm a very, very, very busy man. I'm as busy as a beaver. Beavers work from the break of day until the dusk of dark comes on before they go up into their little home. And the break of day, they're back up there flapping that tail, getting it and going. And they work hard. They'll cut down a tree even in the dark. They'll cut down a tree at night. You can go by a place where there's a beaver in the daytime and there's a tree standing there. You come by in the morning, that rascal's laying in the water. And he's going to chew it up. It could be 8 inches across it, and he's done chewed it down. Listen to this one. He said, who? Me? A servant? You got to be kidding. I can just hear him back in his college days. God's speaking to him. God's working on him. And back in his high school days, his kid days, and God begins to work on him and call him, and he's saying, me? You got to be kidding. Not me. I say the same thing. I said it. Not me. I'm a man with no age. How can I do such as this? Hey, with God you can do anything. You got to have transparent humanity. This is what Mr. Swindoll says. Genuine humility. Absolute honesty. Wow. I find myself lacking in all three of these. But I find myself working on that. I'm working on that. Wow, a case of unselfishness. You must have a proper perspective of those around you. You're not in this world for yourself. You are in this world for those whom you can help, whom you can bring. 1972, I asked Jesus, 3 o'clock in the morning, November 5th, 1972. Wrecked my car, drunk, an alcoholic, drunk. Got out, put my hands on the trunk of the car, and God knocked on my heart and said, your number's up. You either get right now, or I'm not going to speak to you again. I knew God was done with me. I looked up to heaven. I said, Lord, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. And he did. Never took another drink. Never swore another cuss word. Started working immediately in the ministry, in the jailhouse. Started preaching in the jailhouse. Started working in a bus ministry out of church. And the Lord had me put this little piece of paper together right here, a little tract. And after I found out, I put this together in 1973, and after I found out that this is called the Romans Road, other people, all kinds of people use this thing. And God showed it to me before other people showed it to me, and I put it on paper. And been using it now. I pass them every single solitary day that passes by. I use these. I go to Faith Baptist Church, 552 Hammett Road, LaGrange, Georgia. You can go to www.faithlagrange.com, and we stream all our services live. Anywhere in the world you can see them, anytime you want to see them. Sunday school classes, My PH Tidbits is on there. We have singing on there. We have live preaching on there every day, anytime you want. It's there. And then we've got Titus Baptist Seminary, which is a seminary I happen to be in. And without a high school education, you can still go to the seminary. It is online. It's by Dennis L. Farr. He is the president. He's a champion man. Lives totally by faith. Makes no other living any other way except this college. Even though he puts it online free for you if you want it. And if God speaks to you, you absolutely should support the man. It's www.titusbaptistseminary.org. That's titusbaptistseminary.org. And the telephone number for personal talk is 706-416-2121. I guarantee you, if you dial that number, you will talk with Dennis Farr. He will talk with you. He will set you up, and you will start yourself on a 4-year free course in Bible. And you can go to 8 years. We just had a graduation where some graduated with 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, and 10 years. You can graduate. You can go all the way to the furthest end you want to go. These little tracts I use every day. I pass them out every day. That's part of my living. I'm learning biblical basics. I'm using this Chuck Swindoll book. This is one of Charles Swindoll's books. And I'm using it. And a servant as a giver. Are you a giver or are you a taker? Are you a servant? Servants give. Others take. Servants give. Are you a servant? Are you a giver? Yes, I'm a giver. And I want to read every book that I have behind me. I only dig out excerpts out of them as I go on a daily basis. What are your basics? How should a servant give? How much does a servant give? Well, are you a real servant? If you're a real servant, you give all. You give all you got. Listen, I would mind not. I'd wash anybody in the world. I wash their feet. Anybody. I don't care who it is. I wash their feet. And it would not bother me one bit. It would be my pleasure, and I would come home happy if I could wash your feet. Whoever you are watching today, I would love to wash your feet. And I'm a servant. You say, that's pretty low, brother. No, that's not low. That is not low. That's the highest position you can possibly have, to be a servant. To do that which is good for somebody. I dropped $30 on the floor in a store the other day, and a little lady picked it up. She just scooped it right up. I noticed I dropped it when I pulled my phone out, and she had it in her hand before you could blink your eye. And I instead of thinking bad about that woman, I said, God, this lady must really need this money. She probably needs it. She looked at me. She didn't say anything. She didn't realize I knew that I had dropped it. And so, do you know what? She was blessed. And I was blessed to be happy that she was blessed. But that was your $30, Brother Peter. Well, it was actually God's money. I was carrying it in my pocket. He had a different way of delivering it. So he delivered it to her a different way. But a guy drives up in the church and he has a new car. Well, I'm proud of you. Man, I love your new car. That's nice. I'm glad God gave you a new car. The wrong thing to say, boy, I'd like to have me one of them. Boy, I wish I could have one of them. Be satisfied with what you got. Be satisfied. I've had to be satisfied throughout my Christian life with a Pinto. Hey, I had a car that was so bad one time that my children said to me, Dad, will you let us out a few hundred yards here before we get to the church, and we'll walk up there. They didn't even want to ride in the parking lot in that old raggedy car. That's what we had. Are we gonna be good servants? What is a good servant? He's one that forgives. He's one that's unselfish. He's a giver. He's a forgetter. Can you think like a servant thinks? What is my duty today? That's to help everybody, everywhere, anywhere I can, to do what I can for those around me. Wow. Jesus was the true portrait of a servant. He did nothing for himself. He didn't even pay for a room and go sleep in a room. He laid down beside the road and used a rock for his pillow. So we need to have the influence. You know, there's a great influence in a real servant. There's great influence. Actually, a real servant can be a pearl of great price. Obedient, to be an obedient servant. Boy, oh boy, there is Bible rewards for a real servant. Hey, I've said to people of late, do you know when I get to heaven, I'd like not to have to crawl around or creep around or hide under a rock somewhere or say, well, man, did I fail? No, I'd like to stroll over heaven. I would like to go up there having proved that I believe that God sent his son to die on the cross, shed his blood to save me, and it's my duty to tell everybody I can to do everything I can do to be it. Boy, this is a good one here. The Living Book. And this guy's name is Charles W. Corn. Oh, is this good? A Disciple's Guide. A Disciple's Guide. I'm in this book. And I've been really, this is a good one. It has all the books of the Bible. Look at this, how thin it is and everything. And it's got all the chapters in the whole Bible broke down into just a minute, beautiful thing. This is an excellent book to have right here. Here's one right here. Now is the time. If you and I are saved and we're living right now, now is the time for us to get up and get going. Now is the time for us to get out of our shell and to witness to those around us. I have it makes me feel terrible to see people who are Christians in a Christian atmosphere, in a devil's atmosphere, and not be witnessing. For instance, just at the hospital a little while ago, the very church that I go to, I'm not talking about somebody else's church, I'm talking about the church that I go to. Has a group of so-called Christians here on one side of the bench in a waiting room in an emergency room. Has a group of lost folks on the other side, and they've got a mother in there, somebody in there who is in desperate need of prayer. Does anybody from over on this side who are Christians walk over there and say, hey, what's the deal? They said, my mother's in here and she's about to die. So I walk over there, and I'm a gum passer. I pass out everybody a piece of gum, and I talk to them. I give them a tract. And then I say to them, can I pray with you? That's my duty. I am an ambassador for Jesus Christ. If you are an ambassador, what does an ambassador do? He ambassadors. He does what Jesus would have him do. But here's a group over here. I'm not faulting them in one sense of the word, but I am saying they're derelict in their duty to not step in, and they say, well, Brother Peter, how come you wear that tie during the week? How come you go out and wear that tie? I'm an ambassador. This tie does not embarrass me. It is part of my makeup. By the way, my daddy wore one of these all his life and thought us kids ought to too, and I think he was right. And then this little book right here, ask for help. Who do you ask for help from? From the Lord. Live with passion. Wow, I have a passion about this day I was saved. Every time if I ever go into a jailhouse and preach, first thing I have is my testimony. I was a thief. I was a rogue. I was an alcoholic drunk. I swore so bad that I embarrassed my own self when I taught. But God delivered me from all of that. I moved beyond fear. Now is the time. This is a good little book. And let's see who the author is. It doesn't even say who the author is. I like that. I love that. It was put out by Christian Life, but I love it where the author doesn't even bring himself to the forefront. He would rather have people see his book. And then let's just grab a book up here. Here's a book, Women of the Bible. And this book has all of the women of the Bible in it that Bathsheba, Michael, Abigail, Hannah, Ruth. Do you know these? When I say their names, do you know them? Can you tell me something about Delilah? Can you tell me something about Manoah's wife? Can you tell me something about Jael? Can you tell me something about Deborah? She was a judge. About Rahab. She was called Rahab the harlot. God used her greatly. You say, but she was a harlot. No. Let's read the story and let's see what happened. Rahab was a little Jewish girl that got stole away from the Jewish nation. This king picked her up and brought her up there. She's 12, 13 years old. And he said, she's beautiful. I'm going to put her in a special place. When she gets to the age to where I can come and use her as a concubine, I will. And so he took care of it. And that's why she had the name of a harlot. She was not a chosen harlot. She was chosen to be a harlot by a king. Study these things. Figure out. Miriam, wow. Moses' sister. What a person she was. And then we've got Pharaoh's daughter there and the role she played. And Jochebed, oh my goodness, this is quite a woman here. Jochebed, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months by his parents. Wow. And then we have Tamar. She was the sister that got raped by the brother that caused a great problem. We got Judith. We got Rachel. What a woman. Rachel, a woman of God, God used. And look, and we need to have had this book since 1973. And I got saved in 1972. And it's good for us to know some things that we need to know. Here's one, A Full Quiver. This is a family planning book. If you're a family person, and this is by Rick and Jane Hess. If you're going to study a family book or something and you find it written by a wife and a husband, or a husband and a wife, and you find them and you want to really look at what they've done and how they are. Read a little bit about them in the front, the acknowledgement there, and see about them. Here's another good book right here. The lies we tell ourselves. We tell ourselves we must be perfect. Well, I got news for you. You'll never be perfect. But you can strive to be perfect in the Lord. My unhappiness is somebody else's fault. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, if he didn't do this, if she didn't do that, if they didn't do this, if they did that? That's the kind of thing you got to stay away from, because it doesn't make any difference what anybody else does. Your problem is your problem. My worth is determined by my performance. No, not necessarily. Your worth is not determined by your performance. You could be a person that does nothing. You could be a little old lady that sits on the couch and knits, studies the Bible, and prays. That doesn't change your worth one bit. You could be out in the workplace. And so, let's see. If our marriage takes hard work, we must not be right for each other. What a joke. There isn't a marriage out here anywhere in this world that hasn't taken hard work. I have been married 52 years, and I got news for you. It's been harder work for my wife than it has for me. It's been harder work for her. God's love must be earned. That's a lie. These are lies we tell ourselves. God must be earned. No, we don't earn God's love. He gives us unconditional love. No matter who we are, how bad we are, how good we are, no matter what we are, God's love is not weighed out by our goodness. And we can overcome these lies that have been told us by finding the true facts. That's in this book. This is a good book. And by the way, these little old books run, but this one here ran $14.99. I picked it up on a sale. And that's what you need to do. Find the books on sale. Love. How to read the Bible. Wow. This is another, just a little book. You say, Brother Peter, how many books do you own on how to read the Bible? A dozen or two. and these tell you different things. Different modes in such book and intense feeling of Paul's letters in Philippians. And here the apostle, who is too often thought of as a cold, logical, lays bare his heart. He is in prison. He's in fetters. And we need to dig in and see where the person was that was writing, what they were writing about. Paul was a servant. Paul had become a servant. Here's a man that was served throughout most of his life. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. People bowed down when they saw him. People bowed down to him. He was a man of great authority. He could say, put this man in the dungeon, put this man in the lion's den, put this man in the arena, kill this man right here. When Stephen was stoned, Paul the apostle was the one that was there. He was at that time, that was the last one that he stoned to death. And God said, that's enough, Paul. I'm going to use you, and I'm going to show you. He told Peter, go over there and tell Paul, Saul at the time, what he's going to have to suffer to follow me. Oh, man. Did I like that? I like that. Here's a little book. This man's name is Ryrie. Mr. Ryrie, Practical Guide to Communicating Bible Doctrine. How important is it to know the doctrine of the Bible? It's very important. It is one of the most important things. You say, Brother Peter, what is a doctrine? Let's look and see. The doctrine, really, that is important. Communicating doctrine by using major Bible passages. Communicating doctrine by using systematic theology. What is theology? That is the main Bible doctrine. The only thing in this world that there is theology about is God. If it says theology, it's God. Otherwise, it's man-made. But God was theologically came from nowhere and has always been communicating doctrine from the perspective of Bible theology, teaching doctrine from a concordance. Now we can take a concordance. I have one behind me. I have several. Matter of fact, I got 5 or 6, 7 up there. Bible concordances that I can go and study different doctrines from different biblical illustrations. Of the making of a principle, there seems to be no end. There is no end. To study in the Bible, there is no end. There is no end to studying the Bible. You can go to the appendix, and you can find out a lot of different things. You can go to the expository section of it and find out several words in one expository statement. And you can find outlines. You can find all kinds of things. I have many, many Bibles. Why do you have so many different Bibles, Peter, by different people? Most of my Bibles are King James Version Bibles, but they're put out by, like Mr. Swindoll has a Bible that he has his references in the bottom. And I love what he has to say about verses. And then different people have different references of different things, what they say. The Epistle of Paul in Thessalonians. This is a good book. I've had this book since 1974. And this is a good book. Good words I've got written down here. They communicate and use the authorized King James Version. And that is something you need to do. And I have things marked in all the little books that I have that I've used over the years. And, highlights in yellow. This is me. I'd said before, I'll say again, I'm a highlighter. I highlight in yellow things that I like, things that I see. And this is a short course in Living Wisely and Choosing Well by Jack Brown. H. Jack Brown. He came to our church and did some little excerpts. I met the man personally, know the man personally. I'm not a friend of his. If you said my name to him, he'd say, I don't know him. But if he and I meet and shake hands, and he'd say, it's good to see you again. And we do that a lot. We meet people in the church realm a lot. We say, it's good to see you again. I know the man's face. I know I shook his hand before, but I couldn't tell you his name if I had to. And so there must be more to life than having everything. I'd rather have nothing in this world and have friends than to have everything. And let's pull one out here. Let's see what this is. Gems of Bible Doctrine. Now, here's a doctrine book. The Element of Love. The Psalms of Love. 1 Corinthians 13. Paul describes the element of divine love. He takes his heavenly ray of light and passes it through the magnification of the Psalms of his mind and breaks it down into the component parts. Wow. Man, was that astounding or not? What I just read, was that not astounding? Was that not a series of words that drag you in, push you out, pull you down, push you up, and you're going up and down these steps and you're learning these things in 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Paul lists 15 characteristics of the examination of the word love. It's composed of simple, basic virtue of Christian living. If you are a Christian, you are to be love. You're not to display love. I know people that are ugly that display love at times. That's not it. If you're a Christian, you are to be love. You are to be love at all times. You are to be love. That's what you are. Look, love is patient. Love suffereth long. Love is kind. Love envieth not. This is what I said a little while ago about somebody with a new car, neighbor. A lady comes up with a new ring, and the other lady say, man, I wish my man buy me one of them. No, that's not the way you're supposed to approach that situation. You're supposed to say, I am happy for you, young lady. I am happy for you. I'm glad that you've got that ring. And that's envy not. Vaunteth not itself, or doesn't puff up. Love doesn't puff up or vaunt itself and just push it around. I'm it. Boy, I'm it. I'm it. And it seeketh not her own. Love doesn't seek just its own. It seeks that the other one be happy. And it's not easily provoked. Takes no account. You don't provoke a person that loves doesn't provoke easy, doesn't provoke at all most of the time. Real love magnifies itself in action. Love magnifies itself in action. Do you love sinners? Jesus died on the cross for sinners. I put $1 in these tracts when I'm going to a restaurant. Say I'm going to pull through McDowell's drive-through. I'm going to put $1 in this tract and hand it to that little girl in the window and show her by action that this tract means what it says. And this tract is a tract about love, about God. Jesus loves your soul. He died on the cross for you. And that what is that? That's given. The Bible said if you give a person for their body or their soul and not their body, you've done nothing. If you give them for their body and not their soul, you've done nothing. To take a $5 bill on the street and hand it to a bum, you have done nothing. Nothing. Listen to me. Nothing. Half of something is nothing. Half a $5 bill. We were painting in a place the other day where for a whole week, a whole group of people around has half a $5 bill laying on the table. Do you know when we left that half a $5 bill still laying on the table? Because it's worthless. Without the other half, it is nothing. Absolutely nothing. It is no good, no tender. It is a dead half a $5 bill. It's $2.50, dead as a hammer. And not worth nothing. The bank won't even take it. So, what do? You give somebody a tract with nothing in it and don't mean it? No, mean what you say. Love is expressed in obedience to God and Jesus Christ, His Son. God in the flesh. Love includes correction and reproof of sin. Wow. Wow. Love is that cares. Love is the badge of identification for a Christian. Do people know whether you're a Christian or not? When you're in the grocery store, somebody steps in line in front of you, do you say, hey man, how you doing today? Good. Let me give you one of my little tracts. I go to Faith Baptist Church. We stream all our things live, and here's a little thing we do on the YouTube. You're having a good day? Yeah. That's how somebody cut in front of you, that's how you handle that. You don't be ugly. You don't say to that other person that said to you, man, they cut in front of you. So yeah, I know they did, and I'm glad. I'm glad they get through just before I do. It don't make much difference anyway. What's a couple minutes? Use the opportunity. The opportunity was put there for you to use, even if the devil was the one that put it there. Use the opportunity for God. Switch it around. All right. Listen. Love is eternal. Wow. All heaven is love. There is no hate. Did you know there is not one speck of evil in all of heaven? in all of God's kingdom, there's not one speck of evil. Jesus had not one speck of evil in him. Not one. Not one drop of darkness in Jesus Christ. Love is limitless. There is no limits to love. Wow. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were at present far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. That's love. That's what love demands. Let's just grab another one here. And I got some notes in here. These look like my mother's notes. I believe they are. My mama's been in heaven for a while yet. Let's see what this one was. The restoration of Israel. Very, 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 very important for a Christian to bless Israel, to pray for Israel. I love knowing the city. I've been there, walked down through the city, walked the Via Dolorosa, even though I believe it's 80 feet under the road that I was walking on. And went up on the hill and been there and done that. And so I've studied, and this is talking about the divided kingdom. This is one of the books that I've used in studying about the divided kingdom, where the kingdom of Israel got split just like the United States did back in that war. Let's see what this is. Christian living in the home. Oh, man. Are you a person that is a family person? Are you a family person? I got this book in 1970 something, I think. I got some things wrote in here. If anyone can get through to page 41 successfully, you have a happy and successful life, I believe. Peter Hutchins. And this was when I had been married 48 years. Now I've been married 52. So 48, 49, 52. I wrote that just 4 years ago in here, and I had this book for a long time. I got some other pages in here where I'm flipping through, and I find I wrote on the page, this is tough. Wow. I wrote some things. This is tough. Right here I did. Husbands and wives frequently complain that they are having trouble, with sex. And this is a part right here of the problem. It says the problem, the husband and the wife. And we've got to get together here and learn how to pick out our days and whatever. But anyway, this is a real good book. And this was good. And let's see what else I wrote. Me to especially sees I console. Nobody is above all of these failures. All the failures written in this book, I put nobody is above all of these failures. If you're married, you can be part of all of these failures. Watchman Nee, my daddy's favorite right here. This was Watchman Nee was a man that gave his life in China. It was a Bible teaching, a Christian leader. I heard my daddy talk about this man for all through his life. He read everything Watchman Nee had ever wrote, and my daddy really believed that he should have been, his name should have been in the Bible. And something new under the sun. Wow. Something new under the sun. This is good. Shining the light. Shining the light. Every time you flick a light on at night, or flick a light on for a person and show them the way, that's something new under the sun for that person. And that's what we are supposed to do as servants. We're supposed to be wise. You say, am I wise or am I foolish? Are my steps on a daily basis full of wisdom or foolishness? Is there folly in my life? Is there darkness? The wise man has eyes to see and will walk in the light. So we must come to realize that there is some good in both of them. The dark night is so that we can rest and have part of our day and rest and whatever. And let's see what we got here. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Charles Spurgeon. Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I have his Bible. This book was only $19.95. It's a call to ministry, a preacher's private prayer, on the choice of a text, on the voice, on the Holy Spirit and the connection with our ministry, the blind eye and the deaf ear, on the conversion of our aim, of our aim, the illustration in a preacher. This was a man, I understand, every time he stood in the pulpit, he preached to like 5,000 people every time he stood in the pulpit. A man given to prayer. Some of his messages I read, I say, wow. And this had standing ovations. And what was it? It was not exactly always the message as it was the messenger. The messenger himself was full of the Holy Spirit. And because I am a Baptist, I have a lot of things about this. Is a book on baptism, spiritual baptism. How should we be baptized? After you're saved, you need to be baptized by water. And that water will say to those around you that you have the death, the burial, and the resurrection. You believe that. And I'm snatching books off here, and I thought these books were in my camera view, and they're not. You see, I pulled them out of there. Up there, I pulled these books out from up here. And I have some old books, and these old books are good books. And the New Covenant and the New Testament of our Lord Jesus Christ. This was written in 1946, this old book. But it is a good book, and I've used it. And as a matter of fact, I try to use all the books that I have in this office. I try to get something, glean something from every book that I have. And it's very important that you do that. If you have a book, that person that put that book together used all of their inner being to do it and worked on it. And I know, because I work on writing books. I work on writing. And you can write and rewrite, take out and remove, put in, to move them around, put this sentence before that sentence, put this paragraph before that paragraph, and work on those things. Now I have some other things here. This is a gospel parallel book. What is this? This book gives me the parallel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Of all four of those guys, their Bibles are parallel. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Same story, but by different authors. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I mentioned this earlier about how they told some of the stories in a different manner, a different way, and it looks like it might not be the same story, but it is. It's the exact same story, but it was seen from a different aspect, a different view, and a different place of them. And then we have some other things, and a portrait of Christ. And this is a book that I gathered up over the years, and this is the story of how Jesus was conceived and born, about Elizabeth, and about the life of Jesus. Just a book about Jesus. And I have several of these nice books. And you never have too many books. You can't have too many books. And this was the life of Luther. Now you remember Martin Luther. He was a Catholic. And he was breaking from the Catholic. And he ended up being burned at the stake. He went through some tough time. If you read the story of Martin Luther, This is where today, he's one of the forefathers of what we believe today. And he separated us from the Catholic Church. Cost him his life to do that. And the Catholic Church was very unhappy about him breaking off and having another sect of it. And I got this other book here called The Baptist and the Bible. And this is another thing about the Baptist. And it's got all the old men that came through. And by the way, Luther's in here. He's one of those that came down the trail that brought us what we have. You know, freedom is not free. Freedom was earned. Every one of our soldiers that has served in the armed forces has been why we have freedom. They had to work. They had to sacrifice. They had to give their lives. Freedom's not free. Our flag that we fly it because somebody sacrificed so that we could fly it. And freedom's not free. And we're losing our freedom daily. Look where to find it in the Bible. Everybody needs one of these. They're very inexpensive to buy. You can find them. I don't know how much this was. This one was like $7.47, $8 for this. A to Z, a resource. Where to find anything you can think about, like optimism. You want to find optimism. You want to find perfume. It's in the Bible. It's a fragrant incense. In Exodus 30 and 7 it says. And the temple fragrance was for personal enjoyment in Exodus. And it tells all about fragrance. You want to find about the Redeemer, who he was. He's the mediator. In Job it talks about it. And then you want to find out about security. And all of those words, any word you want to pick out, it's in the Bible. It's in this book right here. And then another nice book, I use this book all the time. Who's Who in the Bible. So I come across somebody named Jochebed, and I say, who in the world is Jochebed? I open this up to Jochebed, and I find out after Ruth, 2 Samuel, where is J? How would you spell Jochebed? J-O-C? I said the name, so if I said it, then it must be in here, and I know it is. And that's J-O-N, that's John Mark, John the Baptist, Joel, Jesus Christ. I'm not going to have time to find it, but if I did, it's here. And then I'd find out who it was. Like, for instance, here's Joash, a son of Amaziah of the tribe of Simeon. And so that's important if you want to go back and find out what tribe a person was from, who they are, what they are. And then I got this one here. It's a beautiful book, and this is the Women of the Bible. And this is a devotional study, and it gives a little story. Every day you can look at it, and it has a story of a devotion of the women of the Bible. And that's my mother and father. My mother was a woman that should have been in the Bible, but she wasn't. And then I have this other one. This is called Smith's Bible Dictionary. What we're doing on this excerpt today is we're talking about having a repertoire of things that have to do with the Bible, and people that did good writings of what is in the Bible. And then, of course, you got to have some good size seminary books. This goes back to the Hebrew and the Greek, and it's written in Hebrew and Greek, which means nothing to me, just scratching. But so we must use that, though, and I have lots of those. So the Lord has allowed me to gather up some things. Well, our time is come and gone. This has been Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word, sharing with you how to get where I am today. You don't get there by being lazy. You've got to get in the book. You've got to take time. You've got to get out. You've got to take a nap in the daytime if you have to, so you can stay up late. Or get up early in the morning. I was saved at 3 in the morning. God wakes me up a lot of times at 3 o'clock in the morning. So our time has come and gone, and we'll see you next time. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it, And I enjoyed digging my books out and looking them over myself again. Some of them I hadn't looked at in a while. But every now and then I'll grab one out and get an excerpt out of it to use. See you. Bye.